Hey guys, it's Greg Jones for Engine Builder. We are in Mooresville, North Carolina today at Pro Motor Engines. I'm talking with Dennis Borem. And right here between us is an LS3 for TA2, and it's your Engine of the Week. Is an LS3 for TA2, and it's your Engine of the Week. Dennis is for TA2, and it's your Engine of the Week.
Engine Builder's Engine of the Week is sponsored by Pengrade 1, L-Ring DOS Original, and NPW.
Dennis, thanks for having us in the shop today. Super excited to check out what you guys have here. I know you guys have a lot of history in a lot of different racing and engine building, obviously. But we're in the dyno room here today and looking at this LS3 engine for TA2. And would love to know a little bit more about it.
Sure, thanks for coming.
Yeah.
So this is a GM LS3 engine that is a spec in the Trans Am 2 series.
Okay.
Has been for several years. It's a TA2 choice engine is the name. This engine is based off the LS3.
Yeah.
So, there are some differences. The intake is very much common to a stock intake.
Okay.
It has a throttle body. It has a restriction in the behind the throttle body here to basically keep the power equal between cars.
Okay.
Before,
right.
So the customers have an equal playing field.
Yeah.
The engine's built on a spec, so we try to keep everything, machine processes, parts, and everything to where when it comes back here, we can monitor the power and send out, the same product every time.
Right. Very good. So Dennis, you mentioned LS3 based platform here. What all do you guys have in it? From the block up, how do you guys build that?
Sure, it's a GM block. As far as the parts in it that are from General Motors will be the cylinder head castings, the block, some ancillary parts that go on it, the front cover, rear cover, stuff like that.
Okay.
Aftermarket would be maybe the crankshaft is GM. Okay. There's variances where we can run an aftermarket crank, but Mala pistons, a roller camshaft that we have ground that's a spec for this engine.
Okay.
Front drive system. This would be the older GM system. There's a few different drives where we've had to change to fit the cars and applications, but generally the engine is a built off a GM engine. Like I say, we've changed the camshaft. The cylinder head is it's a CNC ported head. Obviously intake is stock. ECU, aftermarket ECU would be Motec, and there's also a carb version of this engine, which we have done several of those, where it runs basically a carburetor. Some people may not want to deal with the ECU and all of the maintenance on that end of it. Mm-hmm. So the simplicity of a carburetor is kind of gaining a little traction in the series also.
Okay, very good.
The oil pan oiling system on it is like this one is a daily.
Okay.
It's an integral pump bolted to the pan, billet pan on it.
So you got the dry sump set up.
Yeah. Yep. And there's an option there. The customer can run a conventional pan with their oil pump in lines. Most people end up going with the billet system. The packaging's just a little tighter in there.
Mm-hmm. And how many stages does a TA2?
That would be there's 4-stage system.
Okay.
We can see it here on the side of it. It's basically you got a pressure stage and 3 scavenge stages.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Awesome. Now you mentioned in terms of rotating assembly, you got the GM crank still in there.
Yes.
How much stroke is an engine like this?
It's a 3622.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Stock stroke.
Okay.
And then the rods are an aftermarket, like Cali's rod.
Okay.
And
very cool.
But
now you mentioned, obviously there's restrictions, and it's a spec engine, so that the playing field's kind of level. Mm-hmm. What's kind of what makes a differentiator, between your engine and somebody else's?
No, that's a good question. When customers call, because a lot of series have went to a spec engine or a even if there's series like this one where it's an approved builder.
Yeah.
There's other series in short track racing that we have where it is, okay, anybody can come to the table with that build as long as they use those specs. And I always tell people that the first thing is that we all do a good job. There's a lot of good engine builders out here. I would like to think that our processes are as good as anybody.
Yeah.
And I think our service is as good, if not better, than anybody. So really, it's taking care of the customer.
Yeah.
At the end.
Absolutely. Very good. Now, when this thing's out there on the track, how much horsepower potential does this engine have? And then talk about, while it's racing, what's kind of the loads that the engine's seeing.
Sure. The horsepower, without, each dyno could be different.
Yeah.
You're looking at just north of 500 horsepower.
Yeah.
Like I say, this engine, the design of this engine is to run a long time.
Yeah.
So, you'd like to say you'd like to get 10 races out of it, 15 races out of it, so that the customer gets a good value for their engine. So they've kept the power down, the RPM, the same thing. The engine shouldn't hurt itself under normal operating conditions. This engine is it's going to see anywhere from the corners, however far the driver gets down, up to 62, 6400 RPM.
Okay. On some straights and stuff.
Yeah, and it's durable, because it's not a ton of power, but yet the cars are very competitive.
Oh, sure.
The fields in these things, they race 45 and 50 cars at COTA.
Yeah.
In Mid-Ohio this next week. They're really big fields.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes for exciting racing.
It does. Yes, it does.
Dennis, did we mention anything about some of the Valvetrain parts? Again, you got some GM heads here.
Sure.
What kind of parts do you got in the Valvetrain?
The Valvetrain, a lot of GM parts in it.
Okay.
The springs are aftermarket. That would be a PSI.
Okay. Very good.
But the push rod's a little bit thicker wall push rod. It's pretty close to stock, but it's just durability wise.
Yeah.
And control.
Very good. Dennis, anything else about the engine we might have left out, or just anything else about TA2 that you might want to highlight?
No, just that the TA2 engine in the series has grown. This engine is a great package for track day cars, and it maybe modifications to this engine or this style engine that people are using that are running club racing, SCCA.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, Dennis, appreciate the time, and thanks for telling us and walking us through this LS3. Guys, that's been this episode of Engine of the Week. Make sure you're checking out everything that Dennis has going on here at Pro Motor Engines. And as always, make sure you're checking out enginebuildermag.com for more great engine content. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.